Angela Bourassa. I'm a research associate with the Global Women's Institute at George Washington University. Today, we're talking about getting started with qualitative research, and we've asked our colleague Ashish Bank from JNUS in Bangladesh to join us and talk about their current research project. Ashish, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about JNUS.
Thank you very much, Angela, for giving me this opportunity to give this interview. My name is Ashish Bank. I have been working as a lead consultant for Jagannath Unnayan Sanstha. Jagannath Unnayan Sanstha, acronym is JNUS, is a community-based women-led organization in Cox's Bazar, which has been working in the humanitarian response since 2017 in Cox's Bazar. And I myself actually associated with JNUS since 2017. I think this is a great opportunity for me to get this opportunity today to express my feelings and views and my work experience with you. Thank you very much, Angela, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish. We're really pleased that you were able to join me today. So I thought we would start with the why, because a lot of people don't know why they might want to include or focus on qualitative research in their own programming and research endeavors. So why did you decide to take a qualitative approach in this research project?
I think we decided to take a qualitative approach because we wanted to gain a deeper understanding of the experiences and perspectives of the individuals involved in our research. Basically, quantitative methods can provide valuable data, but they often quantitative methods can provide valuable data, but they often lack the richness and that qualitative methods can offer by using techniques such as focus group discussions, key informant interviews, and observations. You can get much detailed information about participants' thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, which can help you develop a more comprehensive understanding of your research issues. Additionally, qualitative research allows to adopt flexible methods. You can improvise it, I think, according to the context, and also fine-tune it according to the reality of the research. So these are the reasons actually driven us to adopt this qualitative approach in our method as a method. So thank you. That's the answer from us.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I know very often people say, well, qualitative research isn't, real research, or it doesn't tell us, how big the problem is. And that's true, but it tells you how deep the problem is. And I think that's, that is really what you've found actually from all of, when you're coding or analyzing your data, that you've really found the depth and breadth of the issues that you were looking into. So how did you define your study samples? This is always a question because obviously we know we want to talk to the people affected, but they don't live in a bubble. So their experiences interact with communities and organizations and processes and in their lives. So how did you decide who you were going to include in this study?
It's very interesting questions. I think to define our samples, I think we first identified the population that we wanted to study. I think from there, we used a purposive sampling approach to select individuals who meet specific criteria. As we are working, I think female staff and volunteers who are basically the victim of any form of violence while undertaking their activities in the Rohingya refugee response. So for this, we wanted to ensure that our sample was diverse as much as possible, and it should be representative of the population that we are actually targeted for study. So we used a variety of strategies such as snowball sampling, and at the same time, we maximize variation sampling also into this, so that just to find out those people, those actually to reach out to those people, those who are really the target population of this research. We also considered factors such as age, gender, socioeconomic status, and geographic locations when in terms of selecting participants. Ultimately, our goal was to create a sample that would provide rich and varied perspectives on our research topic, because particularly the research questions that actually propelled us to select our sample method. So in this way, actually, we defined our sample size.
Yeah, that is a really nice approach because it gives you a little bit of that quantitative approach where we make sure that our samples are representative, because you are really representing a lot of different perspectives. Can you tell me a little bit for people who aren't familiar about your two sampling methods, the snowball sampling, for instance, and the variation?
Yeah, I think, look, this is sometimes, when we conducted key informative interviews at the beginning of the research. So actually there was a growing realization among the research team to find out few female staffs and volunteers who actually really experienced violence while undertaking their research. So that actually driven us to adopt this snowball strategy, because snowball sampling method, because we have to find out those I think individuals among our samples from our sample size who are really being affected. So that is the reason actually when we listen this story from one person, then we actually dig into this to reach out those person who actually really being persecuted or experience any form of violence while undertaking their duties or responsibilities in the refugee camps. So that is the reason, sometimes we discuss with people, discuss with the other female staffs and volunteers, and finally figure out those female staffs and volunteers who basically are our target group who actually experienced this type of violence. So we actually adopted this strategy, a sampling method, only to understand the nature of violence, the nature of I think violence they have experienced while undertaking their duties. So that is the reason actually to undertake some case studies, we adopted this snowball sampling method. Otherwise, that is basically overall we followed I think that purposive sampling method in our approach to undertake this research.
Yeah, that's really, I think you've gotten a lot of richness from taking that approach. So what process did you use? I know we all think that we're going to go in and ask a lot of questions, but really, in reality, we use interview guides that have standardized questions, so we kind of get, everyone's different experience and perspective, but in the same question, in the same questions that we wanted to ask. So how did you develop your interview guides for interviewing? How many informant interviews have you done now?
We actually conducted so far 30 informant interviews, and I think so far 24 key focus group discussions throughout.
Yeah, so there are a lot, and you want them to cover the same things.
Yes. Yeah. I think to respond to your questions, I think to develop our interview guides, we first conducted a thorough review of the literature, secondary literature related to our research questions. So that we did. And subsequently, we and particularly this helped us identify key themes and topics that we wanted to explore with our participants. That is one issue. Then we drafted a set of open-ended questions that would allow us for in-depth exploration of the research questions that we have set up in our research. We at first do a pilot test among of these questions with with a small group of individuals to ensure that they actually were clear and understandable. That is one issue that we did with both of our questionnaires. For the guided questionnaire that we have prepared for focus group discussions, only for the in-depth questionnaire that we have prepared for the informant interviews. And for both questionnaires, we have already set up an ethical review board, and we sent both these questionnaires to them to and also seek their opinion on both these research instruments. They revise it and share it with us. And finally, for our focus group guides, we followed a similar process, but also included, few local, I think, experts from Cox's Bazar, just to review our instruments, how far, whether these things, these questions are enough. And also we sometimes invited our target groups, those who are a bit conscious, particularly on the ground realities, whether our questions is capturing all the area or not. If there is any opinion on these instruments from their side, we just ensure the accountability of the target group that we are conducting our research. So in this way, we also ensure the accountability issue in this while developing the interview guides. And finally, we also sometimes, you can't ask all the questions to all the persons in the refugee camps. Sometimes you need to tailor these things, and considering the ground reality. Also, sometimes, on the knowledge understanding level is not similar of all the participants. So sometimes, you need to improvise these things according to the ground reality and understanding of your participants. So that is the things actually you need to consider while developing the guidelines.
Yeah, those are important points, that knowing your participants, tailoring to cultural norms, and because I don't know if there are strong differences between the Rohingya population and the staff who are from Bangladesh, or whether all of these things may be slightly different. But I know that from further or previous research projects, we did have areas where we couldn't ask questions, or the meaning of questions in the language that was spoken, it actually changed, and we needed to change the language a little bit to make it mean the same thing. So that was all very interesting to us too, and difficult to navigate.
Here, I think I can add, just to add to your point that you have raised. One challenge we face, say for example, sometimes the questionnaire that we are administering for the host community in Cox's Bazar, the same kind of questions, sometimes when we are going to experiment these things with the Rohingya refugees. So we see that these instruments are not working, I think, as we expected at the beginning. So we digged the reason why actually this is not working. Then we found that there is a huge trust gap exists between the host community and the Rohingya community. So at first we did a mistake that we sent a few enumerators from the host community to take interviews of the Rohingya community. But what we finally discovered that as Rohingya, there is a lack of trust on the people of host community. So their findings were a bit biased, and they were not very much open to share their experience and feelings freely. So for realizing this aspect, when we recruited Rohingya volunteers and Rohingya staff to conduct these interviews, actually we found that the findings are quite different, and at the same time we rectified this challenge. So that was a very, it's very interesting thing, and it was actually ingrained into the process. So I think it was actually, we were a bit fortunate that we found out these things at the early stage of the research and took the I think measures to rectify this.
Yeah, well, I think that brings us to our next point. When you talk about that power differential between the host community and the Rohingya community, and the interview disconnect there. But what ethical concerns did you have to really dig into and make sure that that everyone was safe, and that your research was really serving the community that you intended to serve? I know, we all have the ethical guidelines from WHO and other bodies, but sometimes on the ground, those ethical challenges are even deeper.
Yeah, it's true. I think you are absolutely right that yes, we also followed the WHO guideline, and at the same time the SPRI guideline that has been shared by GWI. From the very beginning, we followed this guideline from just to ensure the ethical issues on the ground. I think I can share a few issues on this in respect of this. One thing is that I think do no harm policy has been maintained throughout this research. So we always maintain these things, and for this, taking consent is one of the main pillar of our research. Whenever we are going to take an interview, beforehand we took we always make sure one thing that you see this interview is voluntary, and they participate from their own will, and there was no compulsion. So we make sure that free, fair, secure participation of our participants in all respects. And for this reason, sometimes and in refugee camps, sometimes we choose such places. Sometimes we choose public, but not public places, some safe places in the women support center, so that women actually come here and express their opinion freely. Sometimes, if you want to take interview with people in a crowded places, sometimes it's sometimes becoming very difficult. So that is one issue, is that to give them a safe and secure place so that they can come and express their opinion. So that is one issue we always try to look at. And another thing is that you see the gender issues are also very much important. When you are going to take an interview of a woman or a girl, so sometimes we always all the time we use our female colleagues, female volunteers or female staff to go and take interview of those female, I think, participants. So that is another issue actually we always maintain. And the third thing is that you see there were some questions actually sometimes raise some kind of I think challenge the power relations, existing power relations among the communities. So say for example, there are many male counterparts that we found in the refugee camps, also in the host community, those who usually do not like that their women will go out and do some work outside. So this is a very stereotype gender roles they have been following in both they have been following, and these are prevailing in both the communities. In that context, sometimes you need to also bind the male counterparts of their families. So for what purpose you are coming here, and in what types of questions that you are going to raise or ask their female counterparts. So we need to bind this with this female counterparts in each places. So these are the challenges actually we faced while doing our interview. And another thing is that you see, while doing any interview or any focus group discussions, we always discuss in the team that what types of challenges we might face on the ground. Accordingly, we also prepare our remedial actions. Say, for example, if we see that this place may not be suitable to conduct any focus group discussion, so sometimes we also change the place and try to organize most of the focus group discussions in the women support centers or in a safe place, so that all can come and accommodate. And another thing is that you see, while doing this, we also take into consideration the diversity among the participants. Say, for example, their age, their gender, their ethnic, I think, issues. So these things are really important. So all the time, we also try to ensure three things. Number one is that equality. Number two is that diversity. Number three is that inclusiveness. So these things are really important and cardinal principles while we maintain throughout our research. I think these ethical issues, I think, were really challenging a bit, but we ensured these things in a beautiful manner. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Ashish. There are so many layers to that. that as there are with power differentials, not just when we're thinking about do no harm, and also making sure people's voices are heard. Like that was a lot of work that you put into that, and I think obviously we need to have these things in mind when we conduct research, but I think your research is better for it, that you've made sure you've been very consciously trying to ease power differentials and make sure that everyone is included. So I know you have a lot of material. So how did you start in analyzing the data? You have all these transcripts, and now what do we do with them? I think that is a lot of, that is one of those hurdles where people are like, yeah, I'm going to do some interviews and it's going to be great. And then, wow, now what? So how did you jump into that analysis?
Yeah, I think that was quite a challenging part on our side. I think this is the addition actually. GWA has contributed a lot. I think yes, that was also a big question in front of us when we actually conducted so many informant interviews and focus group discussions. We do have so many data. So how are you going to interpret all these things? So that's the thing. I would like to congratulate you, Angela. That you also helped us in a big way. So I think at first we learned how to do a coding on each questions using preparing a tabulation sheet. Say for example, how to actually find out the variables, and under all variables, how to actually categorize these variables under different themes. So these are the real challenging things actually we faced, but successfully we categorized I think our variables under different themes right now. And say for example, there are many questions actually that say for example, violence against women. Okay, that's fine. So what types of violence? There are various types of violence. Somebody face verbal abuse, somebody experience, I think, physical assault. So how are you going to categorize these things? So these are the real challenge for us. Actually, we categorize these things under different themes and different, I think, sub themes. So that was done. Right now, we are we are now analyzing all these variables, how to deduct some kind of assumptions from this data. So that is another challenging part, of course, but we are doing it manually at the time, and we are also using a software, DDoS. In DDoS, we have already incorporated all the data. But fact is that we are practically doing these things in the tabulation sheet at first. Then we are going to the I think that DDoS finally, that just to input all these things and just to analyze our data. So I think from that perspective, to learning, we do have I think how you can analyze the qualitative data. Otherwise, earlier we do have an understanding that we can only analyze the quantitative data. And for qualitative data, you can also analyze this qualitative data using appropriate method. That is the real invention of this research. And this is really a great learning for us. And the software that we are using, it is quite handy, and it is also very much important on our part to learn how we can build a theory out of all these things. So that is the last stage. But at the moment, we are trying to prepare just to deduce some assumptions and trying to find out the correlations among these variables, how these things have been working, and is there any correlation among these variables that we have already I think incorporated into the system. So DDoS system, the software that we are using. So yes, we are on the verge of I think building our theory, and we are hopeful that after analyzing all the data, we'll be able to build a theory out of this research. So that's all from my side.
Yeah, this is exciting. I just love watching all of it kind of bloom into the theory, right? Um, it, I think that is one of the beauties of qualitative research, is that we get to, you know, it does grow into a really very clear picture, and and a theory. Um, so what were some of the unexpected hurdles that you've come across? I know we've talked about, interviewing and running into different hurdles in the interviewing process. Were there any others that you came across that you just didn't expect and had to shift around?
One thing is that you see, our earlier understanding was that you see, if you would like to undertake any research, people will encourage you. Sometimes that was the prima facie understanding on our part. But fact is that you see, when we did it, we tried to did it, try to do it. So try to do it in the context of Cox's Bazar. We faced a lot of challenges, which were basically were really unexpected. Sometimes, there was a lack of trust on us. Say, for example, as we are a community-based organization, so people actually were a bit suspicious on our credentials, whether we would be able to undertake this research or not, following an ethical standard, or whether we can maintain the secrecy of the data. This type of questions came out. So that is and actually we successfully mitigated all these things. I think it took time, but fact is that you see that was an unexpected challenge, an unexpected blow on our part. So finally we engaged everyone. We sent email to many persons, and actually many people also gave us interview also. So we connected them successfully, and that is one issue from that side. Another thing is that you see, another unexpected challenge actually we discovered. This issue is so much deep. Sometimes it affects power relations not only horizontally but also vertically. That is the crux of the problem. When any female staff and volunteers, when they are facing any kind of problems on the ground, or they become the victim of any form of violence. So how this protection mechanism is working just to protect the rights of this female staff and volunteers. So this is a very complicated thing. I think it does have both aspects. One is that internal, another is external. Say, for example, for the organizations, for those organizations, these female staffs and volunteers are working. Sometimes it becomes a primary duty for these organizations just to protect their female staffs and volunteers. So in that respect, sometimes when we raise these questions, sometimes it also contradicts the confidentiality role of each organization. Sometimes, this came out a lot of things, and sometimes female staffs and volunteers are hesitant to express anything on this ground. So that is one of the challenge. We sometimes, and we finally decided not to discuss on this issue too much. We focused on the external aspects of protection, the kind of community organizations and government organizations, and say, for example, various sectors, how they are trying to address this issue. So these are I think real challenges on our side. And the final thing is that you see, we found many female staff and volunteers. They found a bit hesitant not to express any opinion on many issues, because there is it appears that there might be a sense of fear that has been prevailing in their mind, and that is actually preventing them to express the real thing and the real experience they endured. So these are the issues, I think, really challenging on our part to undertake this research on the ground.
Yeah, that's those are really important challenges, and hopefully, because you are starting this conversation with all of these organizations um, and many other, it's not just local ones, that that these issues will be less challenging going forward. It'll start eroding, I think,
Yes.
a bit at a time.
Over the period of time, we cultivated this trust that we can undertake this research, and you also shared a few of the findings with our colleagues a few months ago with our colleagues from NGO platform and other organizations in Cox's Bazar. And this year, of course, in the coming 2 months, we are going to hold a few big, I think, events where we are going to reveal our research findings to all the stakeholders, including government, INGOs, and other development partners in Cox's Bazar. So this will be a great contribution to strengthen the protection regime in Cox's Bazar to protect the rights of female staffs and volunteers, those who are experiencing vulnerability in the context of humanitarian response.
Yeah, I think it's going to be huge, and I'm looking forward to it. So you just delved into one of our last question, which is, what is this going to contribute? And I think it's going to contribute locally quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I know that it has already contributed. Even your preliminary findings have been presented and adopted into other policy and ways of thinking about women in these situations. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
It's true. No, thank you very much. One thing is that you see, one contribution we do have, there are many research have been conducted in the Rohingya refugee response in Cox's Bazar. It's true that many researchers, they have adopted qualitative approach along with quantitative methods. We experience these things, but here, we followed a qualitative approach, but using a software, we produced a quantitative data in a quantitative form. That is the main innovation of our research. So I think we did not undertake any survey or anything. We just relied on two instruments. One is that key informant interviews, another is focus group discussion. So undertaking qualitative research, you can find out the necessary information on the ground, and you can also reveal insights from the ground. So that is the one contribution we do have from this research. Another thing is that you see, which is very much important. I think if you just look at the contribution from that perspective, you see this particular research actually has been undertaken on the female staffs and volunteers, those who are being experienced vulnerability, insecurity, and also violence in either form, in any form. So this research is this is a unique kind of research, and to our as per our knowledge goes, this type of research did not carry out here in Bangladesh, particularly in humanitarian response in Cox's Bazar. So this the findings of this research, of course, will be a unique kind of thing, and it of course will add new knowledge into the knowledge and into the humanitarian effort. So the third thing is that you see, which is very much important on our part. I think that the kind of feedbacks that we have got from our colleagues, particularly basically from our research team, that you see, it tremendously helped us to increase our own capacity as an organization, community-based organizations. All the time we conducted a lot of work in the humanitarian response, particularly in terms of I think emergency or in terms of undertaking any type of development work. But this particular research has increased our ability in manifold. Right now, we can explore ourselves. We can look at these things. We can look at any issues critically. We can analyze things in a better way, and also we can improvise things innovative. So these are the issues, I think, real addition on our part as an organization, as a local organization, just to increase our ability to undertake activities in the humanitarian response in Cox's Bazar. This also enhance our ability to design and deliver activities in a result-oriented manner, and also I think streamline our activities in a gender-responsive manner. So that these are the issues, real issues. I think real contribution of this project on our effort to undertake our activities in the humanitarian response in Cox's Bazar. So thank you, GWI, for this, just for supporting this. I think this is a great contribution from your side. So thank you.
Well, it has been our pleasure to support this, and I think one of the things that you touched on previously that I think is important is that, you know, one of the things that you're taking from this work is that you are also going to teach others how to do this work, other community-based organizations, and I think that's really, you know, they can both use your findings, but they can also use your experience, and I think that is very special. Well, thank you very much, Ashish, for joining me today. Again, we have information on the buildgbvevidence.com website at GWI, and many thanks to our production team who is going to edit our interview, and also to the U.S. Department of State Population, Refugee, and Migration Division for funding this as a grant from the American people. Wonderful. Thank you so much for talking to me, Ashish.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to just close here.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Angela. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to give this interview. Thank you.